River Crowfoot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I am pleased to have the opportunity to stand in this House today and to speak on, to speak in opposition of Bill C-45, the Liberal government's bill to legalize marijuana. And I say I'm pleased to speak on it, Mr. Speaker, because this is perhaps one of the most controversial bills that this government has brought forward. Very seldom have we seen new drugs being legalized in this country, and I'm pleased to speak on it because my constituents have spoken to me on it, but also because there's very few in this House that will have an opportunity any longer to speak on this. Because so that Canadians understand, earlier today the government moved time allocation, they moved closure so that they could rush this legislation through. Many different groups are telling them to slow down, and they just went the opposite direction and decided to rush it. That's what the government is trying to do. They're trying to bring forward full legalization of marijuana. With it, they know the fears, they know the concerns around rushing, they know the adverse effects it will have on children, and they know that others who are most susceptible to the dangers of marijuana will now have greater access to it. This bill is not about decriminalization. The Liberal government is not proceeding slowly on the legalization of marijuana. They're not proceeding carefully on this file, and this government has been warned by many groups that they're moving too fast and they shouldn't. We are debating the release of a narcotic on the people of Canada. This past week, we have seen that the provincial government in Quebec unveiled legislation that will severely curtail what the Liberals in Ottawa have planned for the entire country of Canada. But, on the other hand, we have seen the NDP provincial government in Alberta unveil the most liberalized of all provincial pot legislation that other provinces have brought on. The NDP in Alberta have even gone further. Yet again, I will repeat that by far the majority of constituents who have called, emailed, phoned, stopped in my office to talk to me from Battle River Crowfoot are opposed to the full legalization of marijuana. Now, that being said, many of my constituents are not opposed to the decriminalization of marijuana. That is, many of them believe that some young individual who's been caught with a joint or with one marijuana cigarette, that they should perhaps not be given a criminal record for life. But that does not mean that we have to put the entire population of our country at risk by releasing or giving the go-ahead here to our Canadian society. And that's what the Liberal plan is. Everyone knows that marijuana can be a powerful intoxicant. It impairs judgment. It impairs a person who drives a vehicle or operates a tractor or any other type of equipment. We know, according to the Chamber of Commerce and Perrin Beatty and the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, that it will have an adverse effect on productivity in the workplace. It's diminished, not enhanced. Innocent people are going to be hurt. Some are going to be killed. This is the record of the states and areas that have legalized marijuana. The Canadian Medical Association says that our youngest Canadians are going to be placed at risk because their mental capacity, their brains are still developing until after the age of 25. There will be marijuana after the legislation here moving forward that will be available to the youngest children in homes across Canada. Parents, perhaps maybe even grandparents, can now buy marijuana, bring marijuana, have it at home. And again, it becomes more accessible for those who are young children. You can bet your boots, Mr. Speaker, that young Timmy and Jane are going to do everything they can to get a hold of one of those marijuanas and try it. They will be determined, just like children are. We've seen it with alcohol, we've seen it with tobacco. They will try it. One across the aisle is chuckling and says they're trying it right now. Well, Mr. Speaker, this legislation even allows them the opportunity to have it legally in their home, and we know many, many more will try it. Maybe he'll laugh at that as well. They do it now, they'll do it then, and even more. You're right. And they may get hurt if they manage to get access, a greater access to it. I really believe that the Liberals have not thought out the long-term consequences of what they're doing. Many constituents have written me with concerns of these very types of scenarios. The Liberals speaking in this debate continue to say, well, the status quo, our current marijuana laws are not working. Indeed, that's what the member just hollered across the hallway. They're doing it now. My constituents say, if they're doing it now, Bill C-45 isn't an answer to anything. How can our police determine what marijuana has been purchased legally and what marijuana has been obtained from criminal organizations, the dealers? They cannot. The Liberals are not helping our police with that question, and many more. Our border guards will also face a major dilemma. We have already heard about the lineups at border crossings. We've also already heard that patrol dogs at Canada's border crossings can detect marijuana. Many vehicles will be held up in long lines for many hours as our border agents try to find out what the particular vehicle has in it that the dog is reacting to. And sometimes the agents will be satisfied that the vehicle merely had an occupant that had smoked marijuana a day or two before. The agents will find out that the driver of the vehicle, although he may not be intoxicated, and there's no drugs or marijuana in the vehicle now, but they may find that out after an hour of searching. It has taken a long time for the border agents to do their job. It won't be the Canadian's fault. He's trying to comply. It won't be the border agent's fault. It won't be the dog's fault. It's the Liberals' fault. It'll be the Liberals that will have to deal with the long lineups, and already we have lineups. The delays will be longer and longer. Mr. Speaker, trade between Canada and the United States, our largest customer, will be at risk and slow down. The border will become thicker. Mr. Speaker, knowing the health risks, my question is, are we not trying to discourage Canadians from smoking tobacco? The answer is yes. We see health agencies, we see government agencies continuously trying to do it. Then why now would the Liberals try to furnish or allow Canadians to smoke marijuana? We know baked goods aren't included in this bill. Baking with marijuana, cookies, brownies, candies, all these pose a major concern to Canadians, but they won't be allowed. There will be people who bake, give them out, if they are continuing to do that. If they do, they have access to the marijuana. They may decide that they want to bake, and then again, people may consume not even being aware of it. The Canadian Medical Association has come out saying that cannabis has a significant impact on mental development. The Canadian Pediatric Society considers that young people using marijuana up to 25 are jeopardizing their mental health, and yet this government rushes through. Bill C-45 proposes to regulate and legalize the production, possession, and the distribution of marijuana across Canada. They want to impose it by July 1st next year. Canada Day will be the celebratory day for the Liberal Party, as now it is legal. Mr. Speaker, stakeholders across this country are saying, please do not rush this legislation. The Liberals won't allow another 6 months or any extra time. That is their deadline. They've moved closure today. Clauses 8 and 9 of the legislation state that an individual can possess or distribute for cannabis plants that are not budding or flowering. Children in that household will have access to that marijuana. C-45 states the quality of marijuana the quantity that children may legally possess. And this is unbelievable. Paragraph 8(1)(c) says, children under the age of 18 are prohibited from possessing the equivalent of 5 grams of marijuana or more. So a child under the age of 18 can use or distribute marijuana as long as he or she has less than 5 grams. Mr. Speaker, I have already had family members come to me, not my family, but family members who have had children that have been using marijuana and now have developed schizophrenia. And they are concerned about this. They believe that it triggers something that causes a disease. I see my time is up, Mr. Speaker, and so I thank you for the privilege of being able to speak here. Again, Mr. Speaker, I would caution this government. They're moving too fast. They don't know the ramifications. They haven't studied where it has taken effect in the States, and there are problems.